There's a few reasons that limerence is dangerous. First reason is that it leads to dangerous levels of emotion that can harm a person significantly. So it leads to levels of emotion that can cause people to act in ways that they wouldn't normally act. It hurts. Limerence usually hurts. It's usually not reciprocated. And it's like that level of emotion that can turn into things like stalking. It can turn into unwanted attention. It can cloud your judgment. It can cause you to be a person that you never wanted to be or intended to be. I just remember those dark days. They were so slow and so long. I just would want so badly to get over it. I would pray. I would tell myself, you're better than this. I would try to pull myself out of it. I would try everything. I wanted so bad for it to release me. I didn't want to feel that way. My freaking heart and whatever it was, wherever limerence comes from, wouldn't let it go. I would behave on the outside and tell myself out loud every day that I would never take him back, that I don't want him to come back, that I will not give him another chance, that I'm better than that, and that I'm over it and he could never do anything to make up for it. But deep down inside, a little voice was still down in there saying,
well, if he did enough, maybe he could fix it. I mean, if he did a lot, he would have to do a lot, but maybe he's going to do it. Maybe love's going to win.
It was ridiculous. That kept me so stifled for so long. That stole so much of my life. A whole year. A year of my, it could have been so much better spent. I stopped going outside. I didn't want to be near anyone. I just felt like anybody could just be liars. They could be completely fake. That you couldn't trust how people act because they could just be completely the opposite. I was just afraid of that. And my son was struggling with the move as well. I could have been better. I could have been a better mom during that time. I could have been more available. I could have taken him to do different things and been active and helped him bounce back better. I did my best through the agony I was in, but I could have been better. It stole a whole year out of my child's upbringing that I now have just a blimp of darkness over. And I wanted to do better so bad. I would try everything. I would look up ways to get over someone, and I did the no contact. I would block. I would get so angry at myself. I just couldn't let it die. So mixed in with that limerence was also just such high levels of anger. Anger, frustration, anger at myself, frustration with myself, anger at my progress when it wasn't going fast enough for me. Just wanting my life to feel some level of happiness again. And I could feel nothing. I could feel none of it. I was in such a dark place for so long, and I could not find the light. I couldn't find it. I was like, well, how am I ever going to find it again? It felt like it took everything from me. So it was just devastating. And something that can bring in such a level of devastation, I think, is a very dangerous thing. The second reason that limerence is dangerous for you is because it tends to happen to people that have a lower self-worth, have a lower self-esteem. Those are the people that tend to be more in a limerence state. So they're operating from a place of feeling like they need an external person, an external being, to validate them and to make them feel like they are worth something. So usually people have an anxious attachment style, and typically people that have a lot of insecurities, maybe people that grew up in a type of a place where they just didn't feel like what they had to say really mattered. People didn't really value them. This is how they perceived it anyway. Doesn't mean that anybody did anything necessarily wrong to them, but this is how they viewed things. They felt like they were not made to feel very special. They didn't stand out. Nobody really cared a lot about what they had to say or their ideas, that they didn't really have much of an impact on people, and that they're just not that important. These types of people pleasers, they all kind of conglomerate into the same personality type. So those type of people tend to be the ones who are going to experience limerence more often. It just goes hand in hand, okay? Also, this type of a person, usually with these type of qualities that I'm describing, are also prime pickings, okay? Prime pickings for the types of people who are attracted to that type of person for the fact that they are going to be prone to manipulation, that are going to be prone to exhibit behaviors of controlling, that are going to be prone to behaviors such as emotional abuse or even physical abuse, that are going to be prone to trying to isolate and puppeteer and all of that. People that have bad intentions for you. They're not going to be attracted to someone who's got a good head on their shoulders and knows their worth. Okay? They're going to be attracted to someone who exhibits some signs and gives off a bit of an energy that they might be easy to make them question themselves. It might be easy to influence. They might be a little thirsty for love, a little desperate, a little bit more starving for affection, for being valued, for being seen, for getting the bare minimum requirements that most people would expect in a relationship. The people that end up with people with those deficits are the people who are going to benefit from people who have those deficits. Because a secure person that has a secure relationship to offer and understands their own worth and understands that all of the things about like honoring yourself and boundaries and healthy relationships and things like that. The person that has all of that is not going to feel an attraction, typically, to someone who is very doubtful of themselves. That energy is transmitting whether you know it or not. So that's why those types of people are just not going to be drawn to that person. Not because there's anything really wrong with them, not because they're not pretty enough, not good enough. It's an energy that can be felt of not loving yourself, of not believing you are good enough. So if you are in a state where you're prone to limerence, you likely have a lower self-worth internally. And if you are out here in this world firing off signals of that to everyone, the person that's going to be attracted to you when you're in that state is likely not going to have the best of intentions with you. And here's the thing about saying they don't have the best of intentions. Just like you don't know that sometimes you're firing off those signals, and you could be trying your best to cover that up, and that you don't even want to feel like that, okay? You don't even know you're doing it half the time. You're like, no, I believe in myself. I got this. But it's still there, okay? It still needs some healing. It still needs some work, right? So you don't want to be firing that off. Just sometimes we got to get out of this mode of like thinking that people are good or bad. It's like there's the bad guy and there's the good guy, okay? Most people are just people. And sure, there's some people out there that are very like outright, just overtly bad. But most people are not intending necessarily to be bad. They do bad things, then they have to be held accountable for it, and they got to face the consequences and take accountability, even if that wasn't what they meant to do. But my point is, half the time these people don't even realize that they're intending to do that either. They're not cognizantly aware of this, usually. I mean, typically, if you hear someone who has been manipulative in a relationship, describing that relationship, they're not like,
well, I was manipulating them and I was just doing all these terrible things to them, and I just like acted like I didn't know it was happening, and I was totally love bombing them in the beginning, and then I just kind of devalued them after that, and I would just make jokes about them at their expense and try to convince them that it was a joke, and I would isolate them, and I would tell lies about them behind their back, skew stories, and play little games with them all the time. So like that's why our relationship ended.
No! When do you hear that? No. And it's because they don't know they're doing that most of the time. They really don't. Not that blatantly. That blatantly, they don't know they're doing that. So they don't know why they love bomb in the beginning of relationships, and then they end up completely despising the person and treating them like crap, but don't leave the relationship. They don't know why they do that. Okay? So we can't hope that people are going to not try to manipulate us and do the right thing with our feelings and our emotions and our hearts. No, we can only control ourselves. The only way you can really go out here in this wild world of dating and love and feel protected is if you have your together. You know? What can I change about myself that makes me less of a target to people like that? What can I change about myself that raises my energetic flow so that I am not on that wavelength that I'm a good match. I don't want to be a good match for manipulators anymore. I don't want to be a good match for emotional abusers anymore. I don't want to be their perfect match, okay? I don't want to be their perfect, vulnerable victim anymore. I'm not a victim. I don't want to be it. Okay? I don't want to have to describe one more time to people how I was fooled, lied to, manipulated, and wah, wah, wah. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't want to be here. I don't want to live that anymore, ever again. So I would imagine that if I feel that way, you probably feel a lot similarly. That's why it's dangerous to ignore limerence and to not get to the bottom of it and to not resolve the things that cause it.